How's it going, YouTube? I know I said I wasn't going to make another Amico video until like there was been some sort of like major news that happened. There was like a price hike, but we all kind of saw that coming. They even announced it. But I was listening to. I mean, that was pretty much all we have. I guess they're not in quiet mode anymore, but they haven't said anything since. So who knows? Um, but I was listening to Ninja Kitty, and he was going over the Tommy Tallarico video to Pat and Ian of CU podcast, and was going over some stuff, and it got me thinking about mostly like what has been referred to as the cult, and I was trying to avoid that term. I was trying to avoid that term when I was referring to it, at least in video form. But since they've now kind of accepted that term, I might as well call it that. You know, it's kind of like I guess they're trying to take the term back. It's their word now. But anyways, but what the thing that got me thinking was how there's like this complete disconnect with the supporters, and they're kind of fading away. But there's like this huge disconnect between what they hear as people who are very invested in the story, as people who follow this story, who not only follow this story but are who are essentially access media, who get information directly from the company, and then release that release it to them under the knowledge that and the expectation that these content creators and these writers or whatever, video YouTubers, whatever, will go out and repeat those things as kind of like unofficial but official, like PR agents for the company, since they don't want to shell out money themselves to pay for a proper public relations team. And these people tend to kind of conflate things that are that. So let's say me. So I follow this every day on YouTube. I go on YouTube and I search the Intellivision Amico. And when I sorry, is this someone just DM'd me something funny? I watch everything, like all the videos that everybody makes, pretty much, except for some of the long stream content that some of the pro side makes, because that can get really depressing after a while. Just watching like someone like DGC go on and speculate like what great things the Amico is going to do once it finally comes out, and it's totally coming out, guys, and it's just so sad to watch. But the long form content by people who are very critical, or maybe people a little bit more middle of the road, I tend to watch those. But even when the pro sites make proper short form content, then I'll watch those. But every time that I watch it, and it's not even just completely short form, there was even like a podcast called like Level something and a bunch of numbers, Level Up. I don't remember what it's called. That's how important they are. And their view count represents that. Which so do mine, but whatever. But that's a good example of what I'm talking about. DGC is also guilty of this as well. Because people like him and people like me, even though we have different viewpoints about this system, whether or not it's coming out, whether or not it's going to be good, whether or not it's going to be worth the money, whatever, whether or not we want one. Actually, I've since put in my pre-order again. I didn't pay for it. I got the free one because I'm going to get it. If it comes out, I'm going to get it so I can do a review, and I'm going to be honest about it. And I do want it. I don't have any good expectations for it. But like I said, I go and I look for all this content every day. I look for news articles, and I like to read all this stuff, and I like to even go back and watch some of the older stuff, and try to kind of see what they were saying then versus what they're saying now. So I'm very well following the story. I'm also part of the Discord group, and I read most of the things that they talk about in there. So I'm very involved with it. However, the general population, the vast majority of people who are critical of the Intellivision Amico, and the vast majority of people who are wanting this to come out, are not following it as well as we are. Like, we are very in the thick of it. We are in the weeds. Like, we are reading every single leaf of the forest to try to see what's going on with this story, because it's fascinating to us for very different reasons. But then we like to kind of project that interest and that dedication onto other people. So I had this back and forth with this level whatever podcast, and in the comment section, and I was explaining like this unboxing, because I did a video about the segment about the unboxing. Like, it was a complete sham, and I explained all the reasons why it's a sham, and you can go and look up a lot of other YouTubers who have covered this for good examples of that. No Square Gamer actually did a really good breakdown and tried to be as objective as he could, and broke it down. If you're really interested in it, I don't want to recap it because it's old news now. But I was explaining all the reasons why it's a sham, and they were like, "Oh no, they explained that this was a dev kit. This was not a retail unit. They explained this, they explained that," and I was like, "Can you please link a timestamp to where they said all of those things in the video?" And they're like, "Oh no, they didn't say that in the video. They said that in a GGC live stream with John Alvarado, like the next day." Or they explained that in the chat in Smash JT in his live stream, and he was commenting, and Smash was responding to it, and there's like screenshots of. Okay, that's great for someone like me who would actually watch those things, who would actually read those comments, who would actually follow that story. However, the vast majority of people saw that unboxing video and presumed that that was a retail unit, that this thing is ready to head out the door. Or they interpreted that as them defrauding people by saying by implying that it's a retail unit and never correcting it or making it clear that that's what that was doing. And they're right. They're absolutely right. It was absolutely fraud on every single level. No matter how you want to dissect it or apologize for it or say later in another comment on a video, because the video that is doing the unboxing, right? That's what people are going to see. That's what media outlets are going to talk about. That's what the vast majority of the public is going to see. And nobody's going to watch a 3-hour, 2-hour, whatever it was, live stream with John Alvarado on a channel with less than 500 subscribers and maybe got about 1,000 views or something like that. I think that's what it had at the time that this conversation was happening. And I was like, that's great. That's great that he admitted that this video was deceptive on a channel that no one watches. It's to make another example. If, let's say that someone was making this really cool, what I thought was a really cool product, and they had a big marketing thing and major outlets were covering it all the time. Be it large YouTubers like, I don't know, Review Tech USA, or maybe large publications like Ars Technica, were also talking about this thing. And all eyes were on them, and they made this video that was sketchy at best, right? And they put some things in there that implied things that were not true. But they came onto my YouTube channel, which has 100 subscribers. My other channel has a little over 1,000 subscribers, but I moved over here for various reasons. But let's just say 100 subscribers here. And those 100 subscribers were the ones that got to see the live stream, and maybe a few other people who were very invested in the story got to see that live stream to explain, oh yeah, that people are misinterpreting that video, and here's what that video really was about. But they don't go back on their other channel and say, hey, or re-upload another video with the correct information. They keep that video up. They don't change the description. They don't allow for comments. And they don't put in the description video like, hey, this was just a dev unit. This was just whatever. I'm sorry that if you implied that incorrect information, XYZ. We're sorry about that. They never do any of that stuff. So the walkaway that the vast majority of people take is that. But we like to project, and this is a trait that we all do. It's like we like to project our level of dedication about things on other people. And I've seen this with like in the political sphere. I've seen people try to justify certain things by saying, well, you know, for instance, I'm going to give an example. And you're probably not going to be familiar with this person, or maybe you are. But there was a guy by the name of Stefan Molyneux who would advocate that people who don't hold his political philosophy, because he holds his political philosophy to be a very good ethical philosophy, that anybody who either disagree with them on that or had a different viewpoint on ethics or something like that, that those people are irrational. And he had like this kind of argument that he would use in order to try to show them that what they're doing is basically being violent and evil towards people that they say that they love. And if they continue to do so, that they need to let them go out of their life, defooing. And it's kind of like a cult type situation, and a lot of people have been critical about it. There's lots of stuff about this. And there was a person who called into a show and tried to kind of challenge him on that a little bit. And he said, like, you know, what if they never come in contact with this kind of stuff and you don't really have the time or energy to explain it? He was like, well, it doesn't matter now because we have the internet and people can access this information anywhere. But that presumes that people are dedicated as much as he is, or the caller was interested in the conversation around ethics. The vast majority of people probably have zero understanding of ethical philosophy. They just don't. They don't understand it. They're not interested in it. It's not a subject that they think about. They kind of just assume that everybody agrees that, you know, things like rape, murder, stealing, that's always wrong. And why is it wrong? Well, you know, if you disagree with that, then you must be for it. Just bad arguments for all that stuff. But we like to project that my level of interest in a subject like ethics is going to be the same as somebody who doesn't, right? The vast majority of people, and just project it on them. So of course, like everybody has the internet. Everybody can just look this stuff up. But it's like, who is really looking that stuff up? Who is looking up the Intellivision Amico? Nobody. Like nobody. The people that are really interested in the story are like tech journalists, are people who are very dedicated in wanting this to come out because maybe they feel that Tommy Tallarico is their friend. People who maybe have been burned by Tommy Tallarico and are now critical, and people who were always critical or were critical from the get-go for whatever reason. Those are the people who are interested in the Amico, and to project that level of interest on other people, to expect them to know that, no, they made it clear in this YouTube video with 1,000 views, with less than 1,000 subscribers, that they did this 3-hour-long podcast, and at, 1 hour, 30 minutes in, that's when they cleared up all of the misinformation that that the video was implying. So it's on you. It's really not. It's really not. And another thing that got me thinking about all this was Tommy has this kind of, he has this way of kind of dealing with stuff, and it seemed like maybe it could be explained with good intentions. It may not have, but it could be explained. You could make a good case that, this came from good intentions, where he would go on a live stream and someone would say, "Hey, Tommy, I really like those old Intellivision games." Um, this is a bad example because he actually explicitly said the other thing, but bear with me for this thought experiment. But someone would say, like, "Hey, Tommy, I really like those old Intellivision games," and that old, this new controller that you're showing for the Intellivision Amico would be like fantastic to play old Intellivision games. Are you going to put old Intellivision games on there? And he'd be like, it would be really cool if everybody who got an Intellivision Amico could play these old games with that new controller. Wouldn't that be something? And we could possibly do something like put Jay-Z INTV on there and let people play these old games. And we could possibly do something like that. And I would love to see that happen because I'm a big fan of those games and go on a big tangent about how much he loves these old games, and wouldn't it be great if they did that? Now, he didn't actually say that they were going to do that. What he said was, wouldn't that be great if they did? And then went on this long tangent. And a lot of people aren't following along. And it's a good kind of like, it's a good politician move. It really is a great politician move. And a lot of people fall for it. And a lot of people will, and what's great about it is, like, later, after the fact, when it turns out that these old Intellivision games aren't going to be on the system. They never had any plans for it. They never developed for it. They probably never even discussed it at a meeting or board meeting or anything. They can always go back and say, well, we never said that. We just said that, that would be nice if we could do something like that. But, we have to divert our attention to other parts. Like, people want like a new version of Astro Smash. They don't want to play the old one. And he even said in there at one particular point, like, it's only going to be a small percentage of people who would actually play these games. Do we really want to spend all that resources on having a system that plays old games when there's things like the flashback? Sure, you can't buy the flashback anymore. But you can see that. It gives them an easy out. And there's like lots of these little things that they constantly do, and they always have this kind of easy out, right? That's one of the things that bugs me. Now, initially, before they even announced the name of the Amico, and they were just going like, it's going to be the Intellivision something. We're going to announce it real soon. Be wary. They were going around various YouTube channels and were saying that this feature was definitely going to be on it, and they spent 20 minutes not just saying, wouldn't that be great? They were saying, we are definitely going to do that, but even though it's only going to be a 1% thing, we think that that's going to be an added value to people, and I think people are going to enjoy a lot of those games. And that will also serve as like free advertisement to the revamped versions that we're going to come out with later. They explicitly said so. But I just wanted to clear that up, just in case someone was confused. Yeah, so this really bugged, and it seems deliberate. Now, they may have had the best intentions when they initially did that. There's a good case to be made that it, that there was some good intentions behind it to say, we before we started planning out exactly what we're going to do with all this stuff, we had some ideas of what we wanted to do, and then once funding came in or funding didn't come in, we had to reallocate resources to more important aspects of it. And instead of making all of these great promises, we can always go back and say, well, we never actually said we were going to do that. We just said, wouldn't that be a great idea? Wouldn't that be great if we did this? Isn't that interesting that, whatever, on and on and on, all the other types of versions of this. And I don't, and that's not particularly helpful. The other part of this, the other factor of this is that there's also like this insider information, and this insider information is expected to be known by anybody who is critical of it, right? So I don't have access to Tommy Tallarico. Now, sure, if I made a video tomorrow saying, no, I was completely wrong about the Amico is great. I love the Amico. I can't wait for it to come out. And when it comes out, it's going to sell like 1 million units. I was completely wrong about it. I took that video down, and I wanted to express my love, and I just started making content. Maybe Tommy would kind of reach out to me and be like, hey, we want to be besties. And then I could get access to this information. And a lot of this information that gets sent to them doesn't get released publicly. And even a lot of the people who were very close with Tommy Tallarico, who have since changed, won't release the information or confirm that that's what they heard until after it has been confirmed by one of the members of the Intellivision Amico team. And for a good reason, right? Because this was told in confidence, right? That they're going to say, like, look, we actually did have plans to build, let's say, Earthworm Gym, right? We had plans to build the new Earthworm Gym, and we realized that it probably wasn't a good idea, or that it was going to divert too much resources away from other projects we felt was going to be necessary to sell the Amico, or the projects that were already far along ahead. And if we started another project, we wouldn't have had any of those done. We just had a bunch of unfinished games, and 3 games versus 5 unfinished games. But at least those games are done. Is a better, more viable business proposition to see, like, hey, we got a console with no games, versus hey, we got a console, we got a little bit of games, but at least they're done. That's a different proposition. But we're kind of expected to know this, right? And anytime that you criticize the Amico, like, well, they haven't done this, they'd be like, no. No, honey. You're wrong. And the reason why I know you're wrong is because I actually talk to these people, and they tell me otherwise. I'm not really privy to tell you exactly what that is, but I'm good friends with Tommy Tallarico, and he doesn't have a bad bone in his body, and he explained the whole situation to me. Okay, well, what's the situation? What's the situation then? Tell us what the situation is. Just whatever. But we're expected to know this. Look, if it's not on the website, right? If it's not any PR thing, and if it's not even included in one of these access media pieces, by people who are actually talking to the Amico team and are doing free public relations for this company, we're expected to know that. And how are we supposed to get this information when the people who know this information won't even tell us? The only people that get to know this information are people who are in bed with the company in various different facets. And we're just expected to know that. Tommy expects you to know that. And if you have any disagreements, well, that's only because you wouldn't debate him. You wouldn't bring him on your podcast. So you wouldn't bring him on your YouTube channel. And it doesn't matter if you have 1 million subscribers or if you have 100 subscribers. He will come on your podcast and tell you every great, wonderful thing that the Amico can do in theory, and guise it under, well, wouldn't that be wonderful if we could do the X, Y, and Z, versus here's what we're actually going to do. Here's the plan for the Amico. And all the things that are on the website are very vague, very kind of not helpful. And when you criticize any one of those points, well, if you would have just had him on your podcast and let him do basically a free commercial on your podcast, then you would know that everything on the website was garbage, and that it's going to be even better than the things that that is. It's just, I don't know. It probably started with good, and I've had someone comment on my channel like, "No, it seems a scam from the whole beginning." And look, there's a really good case to be made that that's true. There's a really good case to be made that that's true, even if it's not. There's a really good case to be made because of those things that I just talked about. Because all of those things, all three of those factors, all of them, you can go back and see it in other companies that were deliberate scams. So what am I supposed to think? As someone who doesn't have access to this information, who's not familiar with the interpersonal relationships, with or who doesn't have an interpersonal relationship with any member of the team, and coming on to this and going like, look at I'm going to see like, well, they've lied about this, they've lied about that, they said they was going to do this and they was going to do that. They've attacked people for saying things that turned out to be true, and then never apologized for saying like, oh yeah, sorry for attacking you, for saying things that we know is true. For instance, a good example of this would be Pat and Ian of the CU podcast. Early on, when the system was being touted that it was going to be sell for about $150 to $170, that the system was going to be like $200 to $250. They made a mistake, and they were like, "Don't listen to them. They're wrong about that one port." Turns out everything else that they said was true, and it later turned out that was true, and then later turned out that that was not true, because now the system. Initially, the system was going to be sold for that for less than that. Then they announced that the system was going to be sold for that. Now they're saying that the system is going to cost even more than that. Do they go back and apologize to Pat and Ian for saying that? But we're all supposed to still remember that Pat and Ian was wrong about the price of the Amico, and their opinions can't be trusted. Despite the fact that that was later turned out to be true, even though they admit that that was a mistake. But now we know that's true, and we now know that would have been a better proposition than what we have now, which is going to be $340 for a console with 2 controllers. Yeah, I would like to have that old price again, but now we don't have that old price. Do they ever issue an apology to them? No. And in fact, everything that they predicted so far, with some minor opinion things that turned out to be incorrect, none of the factual claims or any of the actual predictions. They just said that, but again, like, all of the actual factual positions that they've made came to be true. The opinion-based ones, that's subject to interpretation. So they've said that some of these games are going to be garbage, garbage games, but that's up to interpretation, right? Because there's a lot of really crappy games that are fun. Like, there's a lot of crappy movies that are entertaining to some people. People still love. I guess there's people who love the Emoji Movie. There's people who actually legitimately love the Emoji Movie, which, by the way, the Emoji Movie is the greatest movie ever. It's the ego in its own in movie format. Jokes aside, there's people who actually enjoy that movie, who think that it's a fantastic film. And I've met some of these people. Go watch that movie. It is objectively bad. But there are people who still love it because, again, entertainment, video games, movies, music, it's all subject to interpretation. In fact, there's an album which I would contend is the greatest album of all time, and a lot of other people, not just weirdos on YouTube, but creative types, Matt Gregoring, a lot of the people in the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I mean, the list goes on and on of people who were influenced by this, who say that it's the greatest album of all time. And a lot of people, when they first hear it, think that it's absolute garbage, that it sounds like a junior high school band or junior high school like punk rock band who never played an instrument in their life, picked up some instruments and just started beating on it. And it's called Trout Mask Replica by the band Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band. If you ever get a chance to listen to all 80 minutes of that, it's fantastic. Vox, which is a terrible news outlet, actually did something really good called a little piece on YouTube about it, and talked about why it's so influential and so great, and why it's a masterpiece. And I agree with it. But if you show that to the random person, they're going to think it's terrible. But those are the kinds of comments that you could arguably say they were incorrect about. All the factual claims that they've said about it were true. Did they ever say, oops? No. The only people that has ever made any concessions from those two parties, the only person who actually made a concession and said, oh yeah, I made a mistake, was Pat, when he said that, yeah, he made a mistake by claiming the price is going to be a lot higher than what they were saying at the time it was, which later turned out to be cheaper than what the current MSRP is. But either way, it was just bugging me. And a lot of these kind of, I guess anytime that I see something or hear something that bugs me, it's going to make me do a video in a car, rather than either coming in or going out of a gym. And I just wanted to get that off my chest. Because that's been bugging me. And I know I said I wasn't going to make another Amico video until something important came out, but after watching Ninja Kitty's video about that, it was bugging me. It was bugging me when I was listening to it at the gym. But I'll let you guys go. I will talk to you guys later. Worms, Hail Mephi, and all that other stuff. Worms.